What is up, guys? It's Pedro here. So tough loss for the Washington Commanders. They end up losing 27-26, fall to 3-9 on the season against the Denver Broncos. Today they lost, so unfortunate there, but a lot of good came out of today's game, including some young guys stepping up and just the best performance they've had in a long time. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well. Obviously, the loss still stings though. Any loss will, especially one that goes into OT and you have a chance to win that game. And they tried. They went for two. If they got that, they would have won the game. And going for one there, it really doesn't do anything for you. I mean, yeah, you get the one, but they're gonna go ahead and probably score a field goal. You saw what the Broncos did the drive before, so you got to go for two there. It just makes no sense to not go for two there. But it just didn't work out. Mariota, was okay on the day. Just had some pretty bad plays on the day. Some, picks that were dropped. He went 28 for 50, 294 yards. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, got sacked twice, got us into overtime by, avoiding those sacks. And, Jeremy McNichols was able to kind of draw that PI, which, again, was able to, keep the Commanders in that game, overall. So shout out there to, Jeremy McNichols, because that game would have ended earlier. I believe. Was that in over? I think that might have been. That was in overtime. But he was good in this game. 6 carries, 30 yards. Also, if you look at, receiving wise, the running backs didn't do too much in this game. Ertz was insane. 10 catches, 106 yards. Terry McLaurin, shout out Terry McLaurin, 7 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. And that other one got called back on holding from Josh Connolly. I'm happy that holding didn't, end up really costing them. I mean, it cost them on that play. It was a holding, but it was a little iffy. It wasn't like a super strong hold. And then, they ended up on the next play getting to the exact same position, because it's, interesting. Terry and Debo were both down at the 1. It seems like all of our players end up getting down a little bit short of wherever they're trying to go. Zach Ertz multiple times short a yard or two from the sticks, and this time it was Terry and Debo. And Terry, very often this is the case for him. But shout out to Terry, first game back and showing, Commanders fans in the NFL, why he got paid, and, he's still like that. So he had a really good game. Debo was good, had that, almost touchdown grab. And then Treylon Burks, play of the game. It was only one play, but that one-handed catch was one of the best plays I've ever seen. One of the best plays I've seen a Commander, or Washington Redskin or Washington football teamer make. He didn't do a lot besides that, but I thought there was 1 or 2 plays where he got held. They didn't call it, but hey, he showed some things, and or one thing. Also, there were some plays he was doing pretty well blocking as well. So Treylon Burks definitely gets a hat tip or a game ball in today's game, and did make a video about him earlier this week talking about how I think he's a stud, and I'm happy he made that play. And overall, the offense had a good game today. Chris Rodriguez was solid, 11 carries for 41 yards on the day and a touchdown. So he was okay. He started off really well and then kind of, wasn't as good, a little bit later. McNichols and Mariota were probably the best ball carriers on the day. And then, Bill Krosky-Merritt too was decent. And, the offense, they scored 26 points. Honestly, both sides of the ball played pretty decent today. The refs did not help out the Commanders. I'm not trying to, be a guy that complains a lot, because I wasn't super rooting for the Commanders today. You always want your team to succeed and, be the do the thing that's best for their future, whether that's winning, losing, or just the players, the young players that are going to be around here for a long time to ball out. But besides that, I mean, there was just a lot of bad calls that were not made or were made. I mean, Mariota clearly got tripped, and then it ends up costing the Commanders 15 yards. Terry, I thought, got held at least once or twice, and then there was Treylon Burks, I thought, got held. There's some other plays as well. There was one against the Broncos, the unnecessary roughness. We get called for that, and the hold was a little tic-tac. There was the intentional grounding where it goes over Terry's head or Debo, I don't know, and they called that. So there was a lot of bad plays or bad calls by the refs today that did impact the game, and definitely got to mention that. So offensively played, they played well. They played well. And Colson Yankoff, one catch, 14 yards. You see the guys that made plays offensively. And one turnover, and that was the Marcus Mariota interception early on in the game. Awful. He was doing those jump passes. I don't know what was up with that. Defensively, defense showed out. Yeah, they allowed 27 points, and that last drive was awful. But 27 points to a 10-2 team in 5 quarters. I'll take that compared to what we were having with Joe Witt here. And I remember some people saying Joe Witt being gone isn't, or not Joe Witt not calling plays isn't going to impact things. It clearly did. Bobby Wagner was today. I mean, he made some good plays, made some good tackles, had an interception, so he was good today. But he also did get cooked at least once from what I saw. Sanders still made some. I don't know. I honestly, wasn't super passionate about this game, so I'm not gonna say a lot of different stuff. I liked the energy Will Harris was bringing. Let's see, Jordan McGee made some good plays, made some not so good plays. Like there was a couple run fits I really liked from Jordan McGee. There was some play where he was like kind of pulling the guy back and giving him yards that I didn't like. Deron Payne had a really nice tackle for loss. Frankie Louva was making plays. He had a little headbutt on Bo Nix, also had a really nice sack, so shout out to him. But I know the Broncos fans definitely not going to be happy about that headbutt he had. Jacob Martin made some nice plays. He had a nice play in coverage. Shout out to him. I would definitely like to keep him around. TJ, the International Pathway Program player from Zimbabwe, he got elevated. I didn't notice him, but I guess he made a tackle, so that's a huge milestone. Shout out to him there. But real quick, a word from today's sponsor. Okay, and a huge shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. So I do have 2 picks for tonight's game against the Denver Broncos, and the Washington Commanders are playing obviously as well. I have Chris Rodriguez over 41.5 rushing yards. Feel decent about that. He's been getting a bigger workload recently. And then I think Bo Nix over 15.5 rushing yards. So hopefully those hit, and you can win real money making picks on Sleeper. So check them out. Use promo code Pedro on Sleeper and get a 100% match up to $100. Link is in the description. You'll see after the game if these end up hitting. Alrighty, and it looks like the play was not great today. Bo Nix had over 15 rushing yards at 16, so they set the line really well there. But Chris Rodriguez, the line was 41.5, he had 41, so it is what it is. We'll get him next time. Make sure you guys check him out. Link in the description. But let's talk a little bit more about some other stuff. Kicking. Jake Moody wasn't tested today, but did make made a big kick, made a game-tying kick to go to overtime. He also made another kick, and made both of his extra points. So this is a guy really I want to see the rest of the way. Let's see what he can do. Maybe he can be a kicker of the future for the Commanders. Change of scenery, maybe that can help him for sure. But defensively, I thought things were good today, man. I thought that things were good. There was a couple drives that weren't too good. Things weren't looking too hot, but for the most part, I think this defense is much improved, and it shows what this defense can be in the future, where maybe they're not as far away as we thought. And, this is without Dorrance Armstrong, without Trey Amos, without Marshawn Lattimore. I'm not saying, those players are elite players, especially Marshawn Lattimore, but maybe coaching was an issue for a guy like Marshawn Lattimore. Maybe with Amos, if he had a good coach or, a good guy calling plays, it would be a totally different story. I mean, he was good, but maybe he would have been even better. So that is encouraging. That is really, really encouraging. And, you see some of the younger guys play, but again, they're still really injured, and they're getting guys, Will Harris came back, Terry came back, offensively, but we're talking about defense. This is without Dorrance and without some, big name players that they're missing. And, I'm not saying they had an elite performance today by any means. 27 points is not something to brag about, but they did do that in overtime, and it was a 10-2 team that isn't awful offensively. They're a decent offensive team. So I think that is definitely something to watch out for in the future. And, considering what they were doing before and just the way it's not even the points obviously matters, but it's about the way it looks too. And it was just some really ugly football defensively. And, this game, you kind of felt a little bit more confidence while the defense was playing. And that was really, really good to see for sure. And hopefully we see in the next few weeks with, Will Harris getting, back, getting his rust off, and some other players as well starting to, ball out a little bit, maybe Jordan McGee and stuff. I saw Cam Madrano was out there. I don't know, did he make any tackles? He made 3 tackles, 1 solo. I don't know if those are all special teams, but shout out to him there. But hey, that's it for today's video. Draft pick stuff. Again, I know some people don't really want that information, but I believe they're at number 6 right now, which that is really good news. This is, in my opinion, the best case scenario for the Commanders today. They lose by 1, but a really good showing by them, and they get good draft position. Peace, guys.